918 people died in a single afternoon, not in a war, not in a natural disaster. In a jungle clearing in South America on November 18, 1978, 918 Americans drank poison and died within hours of each other. It was the largest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act before September 11, 2001. But here's the question that should keep you up at night. Not one of those 918 people was forced at gunpoint. They chose to be there. They had followed one man, willingly, from the United States into the jungle, and when he told them it was time to die, most of them obeyed. How does a single human being build that kind of power over 918 people? That answer is darker than you think, and we are going to get there. The story begins not in a jungle, but in Indianapolis, Indiana, 1955. Jim Jones is 24 years old. He is young, magnetic, and burning with something, a mix of genuine idealism and something harder to name. He founds a church. He calls it the People's Temple. On the surface, this looks like a civil rights story, and for a moment, it almost is. Jones preaches racial equality in a city and a country where that idea is still dangerous. He integrates his congregation at a time when most American churches are entirely segregated. He feeds the poor. He runs drug rehabilitation programs. He builds a community for people who have been told by the rest of society that they do not matter. Black Americans, the elderly, the working poor, people who had been failed by every institution that was supposed to protect them. These are the people Jim Jones opens his doors to, and they come because he offers them something real, belonging. By the early 1960s, the People's Temple has thousands of members across Indiana. But something else is growing alongside the church, something Jones keeps hidden. He is staging fake miracles. He plants people in the audience who pretend to be healed of cancer. He claims to read the minds of members, but his staff secretly gather personal information beforehand and feed it to him through a hidden earpiece. He is not a prophet. He is running a con, a sophisticated, carefully rehearsed con. And then, in 1965, Jones moves the entire church to Redwood Valley, California. He tells his followers it is because he had a vision. A nuclear bomb would destroy Indianapolis. The real reason is simpler. The FBI is starting to ask questions. California gives Jones a new stage, and on that stage, he becomes something much more dangerous. By the mid-1970s, the People's Temple has expanded to San Francisco and Los Angeles. It claims 20,000 members. Politicians court Jones for his ability to deliver votes. The mayor of San Francisco praises him publicly. Jones photographs himself with the sitting Vice President of the United States. He controls $26 million in assets, the equivalent of roughly $130 million today. He is no longer just a preacher. He is a power broker. And he is becoming increasingly paranoid, increasingly violent, and increasingly convinced that the only way to protect what he has built is to disappear completely from the world's view. That decision will kill 918 people. Remember the question from the opening. How does one man build the power to convince 918 people to die? We are getting closer to that answer. But first, you need to understand what life inside the People's Temple actually looked like. Because this is the part most people get wrong. People did not join a death cult. They joined what looked, from the inside, like the most loving community they had ever experienced. Jones called it apostolic socialism. Share everything. Care for each other. Build a world where no one is left behind. Former members described the early years as genuinely transformative. Real friendships, real support networks, real meals shared with people who had once been strangers. But underneath the warmth, Jones was installing a system of total control. Members were required to hand over their financial assets when they joined. Some gave everything, their savings, their homes, their social security checks. Jones called it living communally. In practice, it meant that leaving the temple meant starting over with nothing. Meetings ran until 2 or 3 in the morning. Sleep deprivation is one of the oldest tools of psychological control. When you are exhausted, your ability to question, to resist, to think critically, it collapses. Members were encouraged to report on each other. Confessions were recorded. If you ever considered leaving, Jones already had information he could use against you. Your secrets, your fears, your family members who were still inside. And then there were the White Nights. Stop. Before we go further, you need to understand what a White Night was. Jones would wake the entire community in the middle of the night. Sirens, loudspeakers, everyone assembled immediately. And then Jones would announce that enemies were coming, the government, the CIA, racists. It did not matter who, the point was the threat. And then he would tell them the only honorable response was revolutionary suicide, to die together on their own terms, rather than be destroyed by their enemies. Members would line up and drink what Jones told them was poison. They would wait to die. And then Jones would reveal it was a test. The drink was harmless. This time, he ran these drills repeatedly. He was not just testing loyalty, he was training people, conditioning them, slowly erasing the instinct to resist. In 1974, Jones leases 3,800 acres of jungle land in Guyana, a small country on the northern coast of South America. He calls it the Promised Land. He calls it Jonestown. By 1977, the pressure in the United States is becoming unbearable. A former member has filed a lawsuit. New West magazine is preparing an exposé detailing abuse inside the temple. Jones accelerates the move to Guyana. Over the following months, more than 900 people relocate to a jungle clearing 150 miles from the nearest city. They build wooden dormitories, they plant crops, they create a medical clinic, a school, a radio station. From the outside, Jonestown looks like proof that Jones's vision works. From the inside, it is a prison with no walls. Members' bills, passports are confiscated. Armed guards patrol the perimeter. Loudspeakers broadcast Jones's voice, sometimes for 18 hours a day. Punishment for rule violations includes public beatings. Children are lowered into wells at night and told there are monsters below. Jones is now injecting drugs daily: Valium, Quaaludes, amphetamines. His speeches become erratic, paranoid, sometimes incoherent. But in the jungle, there is no one to compare him to. No outside voice to say, "This is not normal." 918 people are now completely isolated, completely dependent, and completely under the control of a man who is losing his mind. And then, on November 14th, 1978, a United States congressman boards a plane to Guyana. Congressman Leo Ryan is 53 years old. He represents a district in California, and he has received letters from constituents, families with relatives inside Jonestown. They are worried. They want answers. Ryan is known for doing things other politicians consider reckless. He once went undercover in a California prison to investigate conditions. He is not the kind of man who sends a letter and waits. He arrives at Jonestown on November 17, 1978, with a delegation of journalists and concerned family members. Jones allows the visit. He has no real choice. Refusing a sitting U.S. congressman entry would create worse headlines than allowing one in. At first, the visit seems to go smoothly. Jones stages a performance: music, food, smiling residents. Several members tell Ryan that Jonestown is wonderful, that they are happy, that the outside world has it wrong. But then, quietly, secretly, a handful of residents pass notes to members of Ryan's delegation. The notes say, "Get us out." By the evening of November 17th, 16 people have asked to leave with Ryan. Jones watches this happen, and something in him breaks. He has spent 23 years building this: the church, the community, the money, the power, the isolation, all of it designed to create a world where he is unchallengeable. And now a congressman from California is standing in the middle of it, and people are choosing to leave. On the morning of November 18th, Ryan's group, including the 16 defectors, travels to a small airstrip called Port Kaituma, 7 miles from Jonestown. They are loading onto 2 planes when a truck arrives from Jonestown. Armed men climb out. They open fire. Congressman Leo Ryan is shot 5 times and killed. He becomes the only U.S. congressman ever assassinated in the line of duty. 3 journalists are killed. 1 defector is killed. 11 others are wounded. Back in Jonestown, at 5 p.m. on November 18, 1978, Jim Jones calls the community to the central pavilion. This is the moment the open loop from the beginning closes. How does one man convince 918 people to die? He does not do it in one day. He does it over 23 years. He selects people who are already vulnerable, people who have been failed by their families, their governments, their societies. He gives them love first, then dependency. He isolates them from every alternative voice. He runs rehearsals until dying together feels familiar, even noble. He convinces them that the outside world is the danger, not him. And on November 18th, when he tells them the end has come, many of them believe him, because he has spent years making sure they would. A large metal vat is brought to the pavilion. It contains grape-flavored drink, a brand called Flavor Aid, mixed with cyanide, Valium, and phencyclidine, a lethal combination. Jones tells his followers this is the final white night. This one is real. Nurses draw the liquid into syringes and inject it into the mouths of the youngest children first. 304 children die, then adults drink from cups. Some do so willingly, others are injected by force. Some try to run and are caught. Jones dies from a single gunshot wound to the head. Whether he shot himself or was shot by someone else remains disputed. By 6 p.m., 918 people are dead. The jungle is silent. When rescue workers reached Jonestown the following morning, they found something that changed them permanently. Bodies arranged in concentric circles around the pavilion. Parents with their arms around their children. People who had died holding hands. The U.S. military spent weeks recovering and identifying the dead. 918 individual human beings, each with a name, a history, a family somewhere waiting for news. The youngest victim was less than 1 year old. The aftermath reshaped American law and culture in ways that are still visible today. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act was strengthened. Laws protecting cult members and their families were revised. The term drinking the Kool-Aid, which millions of people use casually today without knowing its origin, comes directly from Jonestown. Every time someone says those words, they are referencing 918 deaths. The People's Temple's $26 million in assets was largely unrecovered. Much of it had been moved to foreign bank accounts in the months before the massacre. Some of it has never been found. Larry Layton, the temple member who opened fire at the Port Kaituma airstrip, was convicted of murder and conspiracy. He served 18 years in federal prison before being paroled in 2002. Survivors of Jonestown, the roughly 80 people who were away from the compound that day or who managed to escape, spent decades rebuilding lives while carrying the weight of what the world assumed about them. Many face the question, why did you survive when 918 others did not? There is no clean answer to that question. Here's what the story of Jonestown actually teaches us, and this is the part that matters right now, in 2024. Jim Jones did not recruit stupid people. He did not recruit weak people. He recruited people who wanted a better world and were willing to work for it. Doctors, teachers, social workers, idealists. The People's Temple, at its best, genuinely helped people. That is what made it so dangerous. The mechanism Jones used, love, then dependency, then isolation, then fear, is not unique to Jonestown. Researchers who study coercive control find versions of this pattern in organizations, relationships, and political movements around the world. The scale differs. The mechanism does not. The warning Jonestown carries is not, watch out for obvious monsters. It is, watch out for the people who convince you that the only safe place in the world is inside their arms. 918 people walked into that jungle believing they were building something better. The most dangerous thing Jim Jones ever told them was not to die. It was that the world outside could not be trusted. That lie is older than Jonestown, and it is still being told today. If this story made you think, subscribe. We release one of these every week.